1627. A quiet coastline in Iceland. Cold water, fog, fishing villages. People going about their lives in a place that must have felt very far away from the wars, empires, and pirate fleets of the wider world. Then, ships appeared on the horizon. They weren't traders, they weren't explorers, and they weren't lost. They had come from North Africa. They came ashore, they raided the villages. Homes were burned. People were killed. And hundreds were taken. Women, children, and some men. Taken from Iceland, across the sea, and sold into slavery in North Africa. The man connected to the raid was not Icelandic. He was not Moroccan by birth. He was not Turkish, though history would later attach that word to the event. He was born in the Netherlands, and by then, he was known as Murad Rees. So how does a Dutch sailor become a North African corsair? That is the question that pulled me into this case. And like most things in genealogy, the answer is not clean. Before he was Murad Rees, he was Jan Janzoen van Haarlem. He was born in the Netherlands around 1567, at a time when the Dutch were fighting to break free from Spanish rule. It was a world of ships, trade, war, religion, empire, and opportunity. Jan became a privateer, which is basically a pirate with paperwork. If you stole from the right people, under the right flag, for the right side, you were serving your country. If you stole from the wrong people, you were just a criminal. History loves paperwork. Around 1618, Jan was captured near the Canary Islands and taken to North Africa. And this is where the story starts to split, and the privateering paperwork no longer applied. Some accounts say he converted to Islam willingly. Some suggest he converted because he had to. Some make him sound like a man forced into a new life. Others make him sound like a man who saw an opportunity and took it. The truth is probably messier than any of those versions, but either way, Jan Janzoen does not go back. The Dutch privateer disappears, and in his place, history gives us Murad Rees, a Dutch-born Muslim corsair. That is not a combination of words you expect to find in your family tree. Murad Rees became a part of the Barbary corsair world, a network of raiders, sailors, renegades, captives, converts, and opportunists operating out of North African ports. And he was not the only European who crossed that line. He sailed under another converted Dutch corsair, Suleiman Rees. And by the 1620s, Murad was no longer a part of someone else's crew. He was leading. The corsairs operating out of Salé became known in Europe as the Salé Rovers. He became connected to Salé on the Moroccan coast, a city that became known for corsairs, privateering, and a semi-independent pirate republic. And this is where the story gets bigger than one man on one ship. Murad Rees was not just raiding at sea. He was dealing in power, politics, strategy, authority. He knew where ships were likely to be defended. He knew where people did not expect to be attacked. And in 1627, that led him north, very far north, to Iceland. The raid became known in Icelandic history as Tyrkjörð, the Turkish raid. But Turkish does not mean the attackers were all Turkish. It was a word used broadly at the time for Muslim raiders from the Ottoman and North African world. The ships came from North Africa. The people they took were Icelandic. And the man connected to the raid was a Dutchman who had become Murad Rees. details vary depending on the source. The numbers shift. Some accounts emphasize the brutality. Some try to soften what happened afterward. You will sometimes find claims that certain captives were treated kindly, or that some had better lives than others once they reached North Africa. And maybe, in individual cases, some people survived in the ways that were less brutal than others. But let's not clean this up too much. They were taken from their homes. They were carried across the sea. They were sold. And kindness and slavery do not belong in the same sentence. That is the problem with stories like this. The further we get away from the event, the easier it becomes to turn it into an adventure. Pirates, ships, exotic ports, daring raids. But for the people on the shore, this was not an adventure. It was terror. It was loss. It was the day their horizon changed.
Mama, ik like het anders. Mama.
And then there is Murad Rees. Because the records do not give us a simple villain either. They gave us a man who began in one world and built power in another. Murad Rees was reportedly captured by the Knights of Malta around 1635 and held for several years, until about 1640. Some accounts say he was imprisoned in harsh conditions and was later freed or escaped after a corsair attack or rescue. After that, he returned to Morocco and was appointed the governor of Ualidia, where he lived in the castle of Maladia. One account says his daughter, Lisbeth, from the Netherlands, came looking for him, hoping to bring him home. And he did not go. He had a new name, a new religion, a new position, a new family, a new life. And somewhere in that new life, another line begins. That is where my family tree enters the picture, because Murad Rees is connected to Anthony Janzoen van Salie, a man later known in New Netherland records as the Turk. Anthony would become a whole other case file. He crosses the Atlantic. He ends up in New Amsterdam. He becomes controversial, wealthy, difficult, fascinating, and very much not boring. But for this case, Anthony matters because he carries the line forward. According to the family line I've been tracing, Jan Janzoen, Murad Rees, is my 11th great-grandfather. That is the part where this stops being just history. It becomes personal. Because when you find a man like this in your tree, you do not simply get to say, cool, pirate ancestor, man, and move on. At least you shouldn't. You have to sit with this whole thing. The Dutch sailor, the privateer, the captive, the convert, the corsair, the Grand Admiral, the governor of Salie, the man behind the raids that destroyed lives. The man whose choices, whatever they were, somehow still echo forward through the records. And eventually, through me. I started this case thinking I had found a pirate. What I actually found was a man who changed sides, changed names, changed worlds, and left behind a paper trail full of contradictions. Was he forced? Was he opportunistic? Was he ruthless? Was he brilliant? Was he all of these things? That is the problem with history. People do not stay in the boxes we want to put them in. Ancestors are not always comforting. Sometimes they are complicated. Sometimes they are troubling. Sometimes they are the reason you sit back from your computer and say, how the hell did this guy get in my family tree? This has been the case of Jan Janzoen van Haarlem, also known as Murad Rees the Younger, a Dutch privateer who became a North African corsair. A man who started in one world, crossed into another, and never came back. And next, we follow the line forward to Anthony Janzoen van Salie, known in the records as the Turk.